A few months ago, I took these stock 265 size tires off of this 2020 Tacoma TRD Pro, and I upgraded this truck to have 285 size tires. They're BF Goodrich all-terrain KO2s. Now, I've learned quite a bit the past few months after doing that upgrade, so in today's video, I want to tell you guys all about the pros and cons to upgrading to a 285 size tire on a third generation Toyota Tacoma. I want to let you guys know what you can expect from this upgrade, and of course, at the end of this video, I'll let you know if I personally think this upgrade was worth it to me or not. I also have a huge announcement to make. I have teamed up with Method Race Wheels, which is my absolute favorite brand of wheels, and I actually have a set of them on this Tacoma right here, which I'll show you guys in a little bit, and we'll talk a little bit more about the wheels on this truck later on in this video. But right now you can go to methodracewheels.com/Chloe and you can fill out a form to get insider pricing and a special discount code for your next set of Method wheels or any Method products on their website. So I'm super stoked about that, but let's get into the video. So to start out, for those of you who are new to my YouTube channel, you may not know this, but this is actually sort of a project truck. A little bit of backstory on this truck before we get into today's video, because I think it is relevant. This truck was basically in a huge front end crash, so throughout 2020 and 2021 I did quite a bit of work to get her basically back to stock form and not salvaged anymore. Now she is finally registered. She has been for a couple of months. She's been doing great on and off road, and it's finally nice to see some work come to fruition. I did have a video from a few months ago where I talked about some transmission issues that this truck was having. That's all resolved now though, and this truck hasn't had any issues since that over the last couple of months, which is what you would expect from a low mile new Toyota vehicle. I do understand though that with any salvaged vehicle, new, old, Toyota or not, things might not be always 100%, but I have been keeping up with the maintenance, doing oil changes about every 5,000 miles, which is what I do on my TRD Off-Road. So far, I've given it 2 treatments of Techron's Complete Fuel System Cleaner to prevent any deposit buildup. And by the way, right now, I actually just saw at O'Reilly's, they're doing a buy one, get one free for Techron Complete Fuel System Cleaner. So I thought I'd let you guys know in case you were interested in trying Complete Fuel System Cleaner out. But anyways, I've done tire rotations. I've been extra careful in keeping an eye on all the fluid levels, because if you guys didn't know, those are the issues we had when we had those transmission issues. I've changed filters, and just so far this truck is doing so good. I know a lot of you guys wanted an update on these salvage trucks, so there you go. I really don't have too much to say because again, the truck is doing great so far. And for those of you who didn't know this was a salvage truck, now you know. I don't really think that has an effect to today's video topic about 285 size tires, but in case you wanted to know, that is the update. Okay, so now let's talk about what you can expect when you decide to upgrade your stock tires to 285 size ones. Before I get into all of the fun things you get when you decide to upgrade your stock tire setup on your Toyota Tacoma to size 285 tires, like decreased gas mileage, maybe a little power loss, and increased road noise. Okay, I swear, it's not all that bad. But anyways, I have to give you guys the details on my exact tire setup because not every tire setup is the same, and you might not experience the same things when you upgrade to 285 if you have a different setup. Alright, so what I have going on this truck is I have 285/70 R17 sized BF Goodrich KO2s. This is BF Goodrich's all-terrain tire. The old setup I had on this truck, or really the stock setup, was a 265/70 R16 Goodyear Wrangler Adventure all-season tire. So that was the change, and that's what I'm going to be basing my comparison off of when I'm talking in this video. Now, you guys might have noticed that not only did my tire size increase, but also my wheel increased by 1 inch. And if you're wondering why, it's because BFG doesn't really sell, or at least for me, it was really hard to find a 285 size tire in a low range C with a 16-inch wheel. But that ended up working out for me because I wanted method 703s, which is the wheels I have on this truck. They're in the color titanium gloss. They have a 0 offset, and I wanted them specifically because of B Grip, which is Method's proprietary technology that allows you to run lower air pressures in your tire on the trail without the fear of de-beating. I was running like 12 to 13 PSI with this truck in Big Bear a few weeks back, and it felt great. So that is the setup, but if you guys want more specifics, I did post a video when I installed these 285s talking about the exact wheel and tire specs. You can check it out. I'll have it linked down below. So what can you expect when you upgrade to 285s on your 3rd gen Tacoma? I'm a pretty positive person, so I'm gonna start out with the pros before we get into some of the negatives. One thing I knew I could expect from the get-go was greater ground clearance and a little bit of a lift. The difference in my total diameter from the stock setup I used to have to this setup right now is just over 3 inches. Now, minus the fact that I also did a front suspension lift, the tires themselves provided a little bit more ground clearance, and more ground clearance is great for going over obstacles on the trails, but in general, the fact that these tires are just larger makes off-roading better overall. I can tell you that I have this exact tire, the BF Goodrich KO2, on my TRD Off-Road Tacoma, except that truck does not have them in the size 285, it instead has them in 265. And I take my TRD off-road with 265s on the trails quite a bit, but now that I've started off-roading with this TRD Pro with 285s, the larger tires makes quite a difference, I will say. Holes in the trail have become smaller with these tires. The larger section width has given me more traction, and when I air down, I have a bigger footprint than I do with my 265s. Rock crawling in general feels much more comfortable with this truck, and I have to admit, it's pretty awesome that you can get a lot more out of this truck just by changing the tire size alone. I mean, that's true with any vehicle, but let me just say a 285 on this truck is great on the trails. And if we're not strictly speaking about off-road, I will say there are some on-road advantages. Like, I get a better view of the road with these tires because I'm higher up. I've also found that maintenance is easier. For example, oil changes are easy because of the small lift gained from these tires. And in general, a lot of people like the look of a truck with bigger tires, so that could be an advantage as well, although that's subjective, so I'll leave it up to you. Now, another advantage I see with this specific size tire is that it was actually pretty easy to fit on this Tacoma without rubbing. I will say my 0 offset method wheels did play a big role in getting these bigger tires to actually fit under this truck without rubbing. But besides that, the only thing I had to do to clear these larger tires on this Tacoma was install a leveling kit. So for me, that was just a 1.5 inch lift in the front to basically level it out with the rear, and I specifically went with the Westcott design suspension lift. I didn't have to change my shocks, springs. The kit is basically a preload collar that doesn't change the ride quality at all, which is another big thing. I really didn't have to compromise the already awesome suspension on this truck to accommodate fitting these tires. But basically, I was able to install this Westcott design suspension lift at home. It was pretty easy overall, and it allowed these tires to fit. Now, I do want to emphasize that this worked for my exact setup I have for this truck. I can't guarantee that only 1.5 inches of lift will work for every single 285 tire and wheel combo, and in fact, I know it won't work for every single tire and wheel combo. While lift is important, and the lift really is what helped us fit these tires, there's so many things and other measurements you need to consider if you're deciding to upgrade to 285s, because your caster adjustment, your offset are all gonna affect whether you have rubbing when you fit your 285 setup or not. So again, in my case, fitting these 285s was pretty easy, or at least easy in my opinion, but it may be a slightly different story for you if you have a completely different 285 setup. Okay, so now let's get into some of the disadvantages or maybe some of the negative things I've experienced from upgrading my stock wheels and tires to my 285 size tires right now. Let me just say that these are all things I definitely knew were coming. They're not a secret by any means. They're things I definitely expected. These are all things that kind of just come with the territory of upgrading to 285 or basically larger tires. Okay, so the first thing is that these tires are definitely pretty loud on road. My 265s on my TRD Off-Road really aren't that loud and aren't that bad, but I guess the 1-inch larger section width with these 285s really must make quite a difference, because I will say these tires are pretty loud. It really isn't anything that unbearable, but I will say that when I get on the highway with this truck, I do definitely have to turn up my music a little bit louder because the tires make quite a bit of noise. If I run these tires at anything under 33 PSI on road, the loudness is really noticeable, so I like to keep these tires while I'm on the road at 34 PSI or higher for maximum comfort. But besides the noise, maybe a bigger disadvantage of these larger size tires would be their increase in weight, which contributes not only to a little bit of power loss, but also to decreased gas mileage. So the stock tires on this Tacoma alone, without the wheels, weighed 34 pounds, and now these specific 285 KO2s without the method wheels on them weigh a staggering 51 pounds. So that is a 17-pound difference, which is quite a bit. And this is significant because it isn't just 17 times 4, of course, pounds of static weight that you're adding to the truck. This is 17 pounds of rotating weight on each corner. And I wasn't a physics major in college, but I definitely know that rotating weight on a vehicle takes much more energy than carrying the same amount of static weight. With this increase in rotating weight on this truck, I've experienced worse gas mileage, not gonna lie. I used to get about 22 combined, but now I'm getting probably closer to 18 miles a gallon. That might not be the worst thing in the world to some people, but I know there are people out there that want to know if these 285s contribute to a noticeable power loss or not. So let me just say, short answer is yes, they do. But in my experience, it's really not that bad, or honestly, really not that noticeable. So I generally drive slow anyways, so maybe that's why I'm saying it's not that bad. Other people might have a different experience, but I can't say there's like this dramatic decrease in acceleration with upgraded 285s. A lot of people will argue that you should upgrade your gears if you're gonna decide to make the move to 285 size tires. I'll leave that up to you guys, but for me, I just personally don't think it's that worth it for me. The power loss is there, but it's so minimal. Probably the last negative thing about the increase in weight on each of these tires is that it's now more difficult for me to either rotate the tires or change a tire if I have to. Together, each wheel and tire on this truck weighs 75 pounds, so it's not too bad, but it is definitely harder for me to lift compared to my 265 setup on my TRD Off-Road. That's something I really honestly didn't think about when I was initially upgrading to 285s, but I'm really glad, and I guess I'm really lucky that I can still change the tire if I really needed to. It's not too heavy. I personally wouldn't be happy if I couldn't lift all of my tires if I needed to. I don't know if that matters for any of you out there, but I thought it would be something worth mentioning. Okay, so those are all of the pros and cons that I've experienced from upgrading to 285 size tires, but now I want to answer the question, was this upgrade worth it for me or not? Do I regret this decision or not? I would say overall, no. For me specifically, the pros of the larger or increased tire size definitely outweigh the cons. Like I said before, I kind of knew that the decreased gas mileage, the slight power loss, the increase in weight in general was all coming. I would say that if you're planning on doing some off-roading in your Tacoma and you want to upgrade from the stock tire size, you don't mind the MPG hit, and you don't mind doing a little bit of work to get them to fit, you should go for 285s. On the other hand, if you want to keep your truck close to factory specs, Maybe you don't want to lift your truck. Maybe you daily drive it and you want to keep the best gas mileage out of this mid-sized truck that you can. Or maybe you're sensitive to road noise. I would say that 265 size tires is probably a little bit of a better choice instead of a 285. Again, I still run 265s on my TRD Off-Road and I still do trails and have a ton of fun with them. But I will say this TRD Pro has shown me that 285 size tires are a pretty nice upgrade for all the times you're off the pavement. Anyways, I hope this video and sharing my experience helps you guys if you're trying to decide whether you want to upgrade or not. I definitely want to know what you guys have experienced with 285 size tires or even 265 size tires as well. Definitely leave me a comment below. I'd love to know. Thank you so much for watching. Again, don't forget to check out methodracewheels.com/Chloe to sign up to get exclusive insider pricing on your next set of Method wheels or Method accessories from methodracewheels.com. If you want to connect more with me, you can follow me on my Instagram. It is at ChloeKuoTaco. I post more content and content in real time on there. But other than that, thanks again for watching and I hope I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys!